good afternoon, and welcome to this episode of LinkedIn Lunchtime Live. Start being visible on LinkedIn at lunchtime with me, Mildred Talabi. Now, I am pleased to have you here. If you're tuning in live, welcome. Hello. You know how it goes. If this is your first time watching it, maybe you don't know how it goes, right? So I'm going to fill you in right now. How it goes is that I like to know who is watching, right? And the way I like to know that is I like you to say hello, because I like this to be interactive. I like to get to know you as well as you getting to see me, right? So please drop a hello in the comments. Let me know who you are, where you're watching from, where in the world you're tuning in from, because we're broadcasting live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, and I know that I have people all over the world who tune in. So let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from in the comments, because today we are going to be talking about something that actually it stops a lot of people from being visible on LinkedIn. I'm going to go ahead and put it up right here on the screen. We're going to talk about the 4 common barriers to being visible on LinkedIn, and most importantly, how you can overcome them. Now, these barriers I'm going to talk about, I get guys tuning on this show, men tuning on this show, but I work with ladies. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Mildred Talabi. I'm a LinkedIn visibility and personal branding coach. I work with female leaders and women in business to increase your influence, your income, and your impact through being visible on LinkedIn. Why does it matter? Why does being visible matter? Being visible matters because there's so many reasons, there's so many levels, and so many advantages to being visible on LinkedIn. Some of it actually are on an internal level. Let's go inside out, right? And we're going to talk about the barriers in a minute because it all kind of relates, right? So let's start inside out. Being visible and showing up on a platform like this, it takes courage. So it does a lot for the person that you are when you can start to show up on a platform like LinkedIn and you start being visible and you start to build your audience, you start to build your brand. Now, what happens as you start to make that step inwardly, because it starts in and then it comes out, opportunities start to come your way, whether it's to advance your career, move up levels in your career ladder, because now you're visible internally inside your workplace as well as on the outside. You're becoming what I call an employee influencer. That has massive opportunity benefits for your career moving forward in that next step, wherever you want to go in your career. Now, as a business person, as you start to be visible, that is absolutely such a great way to attract your ideal clients. So to attract the people who want to buy into your services or your products, just by them seeing you, being visible is being seen, being heard, being remembered. You start to build and form those relationships with your target audience in a way that I like to think is relatively pain-free compared to the other way, right? Which is where you just send people lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of messages, cold emails, cold messages in the direct messages, hoping that you'll get a sale out of it. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. But there is so much good that happens when you start being visible on LinkedIn, but there are so many barriers that stop us from getting to this place, especially us as women, and we're going to talk about that today. But before we talk about it, so I want you to, as I said, I want you to react to show that you're watching. So use one of the react buttons, whichever one you like, to show that you're watching, and I want you to drop a hello in the comments. Let me know who you are and say hello in the comments so I know who you are, what part of the world you're tuning in from, and even if you're watching on replay, I want to see a hashtag replay on there, and leave your comments, leave your questions about being visible on LinkedIn, and I will get to it. If not live on air, then definitely I will get to it after. Jason, good to see you, Jason. Hi, Taisha from DC. Hey, I've got a LinkedIn user. It always does this. Every time LinkedIn shows me somebody and just calls them LinkedIn user. So I don't know who you are, who's eating lunch. Hey, I'm glad you're spending your lunchtime with me. Thank you for joining. Hi, Christina from London. I've got Kentra Vios. Oh, what a cool name. Who is watching from Georgia. And Lolita. Hey, Lolita. Good to see you live from London. And I am broadcasting this live from Kent. From Kent in sunny Dartford. Very, very sunny Dartford right now. So I love it. And Hazel from London as well. Good to see you, Hazel. Good to see you all on this line. So please keep on dropping your hellos in the comments as we go along, because we're going to get to the meat of what we're talking about today. So we're going to talk about the 4 common barriers, as I said, to being visible on LinkedIn. Now, because if being visible was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? But the truth is that, and the numbers are probably it's probably a lot less than this, but I'm going to be generous in the stat I'm about to give you. There are over 850 million users on LinkedIn. Over 850 million. It keeps growing year on year. LinkedIn is honestly, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, right? LinkedIn is the place to be, because LinkedIn is the future. It's a growing platform. It continues to grow, and it serves a different purpose than some of these other platforms. But there are about 850 million users on LinkedIn. And of these, more than 80% of people on LinkedIn are not visible. What that means is you're not posting content on a regular basis. You're not engaging. You're not interacting with the platform, with the people on here. You're not showing up. And as a result, when you're not visible, you do not get to experience the advantages of being visible. As I said, these are opportunities to increase your influence, to increase your income, to increase your impact in the world through being visible. But more than 80% of people are not doing this on LinkedIn. I do not want you to be in that 80%. And the reason a lot of people are not doing this is because these barriers that I'm about to mention, a lot of women struggle with this in particular. And I know this because I've worked with hundreds of women in some shape or form over the last 3 years of running this business as a LinkedIn visibility coach for women. I know this because I hear this time and time again in the different forms. So I've kind of put this together as a broad category of the barriers that stop most people, most women, from being visible on LinkedIn. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to confess. Is it okay if I confess? Are we friends enough for me to confess to you right here, right? Taisha's morning. Yes, my US people, it's morning where you are. It's lunchtime where we are over here. Noble, good to see you from Hawaii. I love that. But guys, listen, is it okay to confess to you? I have not always been comfortable being visible on LinkedIn or anywhere. I have not been. Being visible is not something that I've been comfortable with from the get-go, not even close. I was a shy little girl, in terms of so much so, and I tell this when I do my LinkedIn training workshops and things like that. I say I was this is how shy I was in school, right? If the teacher even thought to ask me a question, I would turn red. And I'm Black. So you can imagine how hard that is to do, right? But it was just that thought of being seen, being heard was something that I was like, oh my God, no way, that's not for me. And I used to shrink away a lot in childhood, and some of it went into my adulthood as well. So it was well into my 20s that I started to make the shift towards actually understanding the power that my own voice had. Because here's the thing, and you might be in this position, it's not that for those of us, I'm an introvert by nature, and please, before you think that means all introverts are shy, it's not the same thing. There's a quiet nature, and shyness is different. I started off shy, and then I realized that actually some of it is just quiet. That's my nature. And I like it. I love it. If you haven't read the book Quiet by Susan Cain, go read it. Go check out her TED Talk. If you're an introvert, if you love somebody who's an introvert and you want to understand them, it's the best book that I've read that really puts a good understanding of this whole introvert extrovert thing. But anyway, so because of that, I didn't even know I was an introvert until much later. As I said, when I read Susan Cain's, it was well over a decade ago, that put into words what I'd known all my life, but I just didn't know how to express. All I knew was that I just hated being visible. I always tried to hide. I always tried to take backstage where I could, not because I didn't have the things to say, but I just wasn't confident enough to do it. And I just didn't want to draw attention to myself. I had all of these barriers, and even though I was active on LinkedIn from back then, I was active on LinkedIn in terms of I had an account like most of us, probably you. It's probably the case. You join LinkedIn because as part of work, you have to be on LinkedIn, or at least you think you have to be on LinkedIn, right? For the professional profile. Facebook is for the cat pictures and baby pictures and all that. But LinkedIn is where you're the professional. So I joined LinkedIn initially for that reason. And I started to slowly put things out there, and I slowly started to build my brand over the years. But it wasn't until 2020, beginning of 2020, that I really decided to go all in on LinkedIn and use this platform as a place to build my personal brand and to really start being visible. Before then, I'd gone through probably like a 10-year journey of getting to the place where I was comfortable being visible, using my voice. Not only that, I'm not just comfortable, I love it now. Stuff like this I couldn't do before. So I'm telling you this to tell you that whatever stage you are at in the process of being visible, know that A, you don't have to stay at that stage, and B, that you can journey from where you are to where you want to be. It is a process, but it is absolutely possible for you to go from a place of I don't want to be visible to a place where you are actually not just comfortable being visible, but you might even love it. You might even actually love to be visible on LinkedIn. And actually that leads me nicely to the first barrier, because the 4 common barriers to being visible about today, and the very first barrier that I experienced myself, and you probably, and this might be the case for you as well, and you probably experienced too, right? The number one barrier that I hear again and again that stops women from being visible on LinkedIn is fear. Now, fear can manifest itself in so many different ways. So the fear of being visible is one thing, because it's just that was a big fat fear in itself, right? And by the way, if any of this relates, let me know in the comments. If you're like, Mildred, you're speaking my language, this is me, this is how I feel, let me know in the comments, because I'd love to high five you. I'd love to let you know that, well, virtual high five, right? Let you know that you got this, we got this, you can do this, right? So the first barrier that I hear time and time again is this barrier of fear, this barrier of the fear of being visible, and that really is the sense of that is that this is the fear of having to step outside of your comfort zone. Do you know, even now, as much as I love doing these lives, and honestly, I love doing these lives, like somebody needs to give me a TV show because I'm so ready. I'm so ready for my own TV show, right? Oprah, you listening? But listen, even as much as I love doing this, every now and again, just before I switch off the camera, I'm like, Mildred, why are you doing this again? Your life would be so much easier if you don't bother with this visible stuff, right? If you just carry on and do your work behind the scenes and just go like that. Every time I'm about to speak on stage, for a paid speaking engagement or whatever it is, that voice comes again, Mildred, why are you doing this? So I'm telling you that even as you grow into visibility, that voice that tries to keep you hidden might come at you again and again. You just need to keep silence. And the best way to silence that fear is to do the thing that the fear tells you not to do. Do the thing that you're afraid of, or as cliched as it might be, to feel that fear and do it anyway. Get on with it, doing it anyway. So barrier number 1 is fear, is the fear of being visible, the fear of stepping outside of your comfort zone. The fear of being judged is a big one as well that I hear a lot from women. The fear of being judged. What will people think of me? To other people's opinions. What will they think of me? What are they going to think if I put things out there? And then there's the fear of getting it wrong. What if I say the wrong things? What if I put something out there and I get trolled? Our people don't like it. So fear is a big one. And on that subject of trolling, actually, Claire, I don't know if Claire's watching live, but Claire had a question earlier on about how do you handle it? How do you handle it when you get trolled, or like you get the comments from, what is it she said here? She said, what's your strategy for dealing with the hustlers, misogynists, the haters that I'm guessing all women on LinkedIn deal with? This was Claire's question earlier today when I put out the post that I was going live. Claire, the strategy for that one, I found personally, and I know a lot of people find this if you're on other platforms, LinkedIn has a whole lot less of that than platforms like Twitter, for example, which I haven't been on Twitter literally for years. I have an account there, but I'm not active on it anymore because it just wasn't worth my time. But Twitter is so easy, much easier to get away with trolling and things like that on Twitter. LinkedIn is not quite as easy because usually, unless it's a fake profile, it's linked to a real person and a real company and people can see what you post. So the strategy for dealing with that, block. Use the block button. If somebody is not here for a constructive conversation or constructive, anything constructive, their intentions are not good, just block them. Block and move on. Block and move on. That's it. Block them and move on. So Claire, that's what I think. Don't even invest your energy in dealing with things like that. Just block and move on. Okay. So yes, Claire is here. Claire is my mysterious LinkedIn user. Good to see that you're here. Yes, so that's the number one barrier. So block and move on. And that's the thing, that whole fear of being judged and being trolled and all of that, sometimes it holds us women back to being visible on LinkedIn. So I'm here to tell you to feel that fear and do it anyway and push past that very first barrier of being visible on LinkedIn. Pius from Uganda, thanks for tuning in. Good to see you here. Christina, that's an interesting point. A lot of people see stepping up and speaking as attention seeking, and they see invisibility as virtue. Oh my God, there is a lot. There's a lot packed into there. Absolutely. Let me just. I have got. I only budgeted half an hour, and I'm on point number one, right? So if I go on a tangent, right, I may have to come back next week and finish the rest. But let me bring that back up, Christina, because you make some really powerful stuff, and it's true. Especially as women, sometimes we can get socialized with this whole idea of you have to shrink back. That little girls are to be seen and not heard, or even worse, not seen or heard, that kind of thing. So we have this, as you said here, Christina, this whole thing of if someone's putting themselves out there and they're being visible, they are showing off. Now, listen, there is a big difference between showing off and showing up. There is a big difference. And one of the things that hinders a lot of women in the career world, especially women in career, it affects business too, but especially in career, is this whole idea of my work is going to speak for me. So I'm just going to let my work speak for me. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm just going to be here virtually invisible, exercise the false virtue of being invisible and being quiet and holding back so I can let my work speak for me. The problem is your work does not have a voice. It needs you to advocate for yourself. It needs you to start being visible internally in your organization and externally on LinkedIn so that you can give voice to the good work that you do. So stepping up and speaking out is not attention seeking. It is rightfully so shining a light on the things that you're good at, the skills that you have, the experience, the knowledge that you have. All of that is of great benefit to somebody, but how are they going to know about it if you don't start being visible? So actually, you are doing your audience an injustice if you're not visible. If you're a business owner, you went into business because of the fact that you have maybe you have a service business, especially service business owners, or maybe a product, but you went into business because you have an idea or a service or a product or whatever it is that you believe is going to make a difference in the world in some way. Whether you're selling pens or accounting services, right? You believe it's going to make a difference in some way. But guess what? If you never start being visible, if you don't step up and show up, how are people going to know about your difference making product, about your difference making service? How are people going to take advantage of your coaching, amazing transformational coaching services if they don't know you exist? So being visible is absolutely important. And no, it is not a virtue to be invisible. It is actually you are cheating and robbing your audience of the very best you that they can have access to. So please, let's start being visible today. Let's push through that barrier of fear and let's push through that whole idea of it's virtuous to be invisible and start being visible because your audience needs you. They need to see you. Your company needs to see you in work. They need to see what you're capable of and they need to promote you accordingly or give you the right positions accordingly. And your audience needs to buy from you accordingly because of what you have inside of you. So, as you can tell, I'm passionate about this, right? I'm passionate. I actually do whole workshops. Hour plus 2 hour workshops, and I've done a 4-hour masterclass previously. Was it last year or the year before on this whole topic of being visible as well as profitable? I might bring that back this year. Keep watching the space. So there is so much we can say about this, but this is only meant to be a little hit and run lunchtime quick fix. But if this is helping you, let me know in the comments. If this is resonating, let me know in the comments. Yeah, just drop it in the comments. And if you have any questions or your own observations on this, I'd love to hear it as well. Now, let me use this point actually to flag something up for you. If you do want to have a way to start your process of being visible, I am currently about to start my next round of my ABC challenge. Now, the ABC challenge is an audience breakthrough challenge. That's what ABC stands for. It is designed to help you find and connect with your target audience on LinkedIn, but really, it's a really good stepping stone to starting your journey to being visible on LinkedIn in the right way. You do it in a small group setting with other amazing women on LinkedIn and with me as your guide and your coach. And I have little tasks for you over the 30 days that you do. And then we meet once a week for accountability, for questions, all of that good stuff. At the end of the 30 days, you are going to have a transformational journey on LinkedIn if you follow what I teach you. You know, if you follow what I teach you and you engage with the whole process, you are going to see LinkedIn in a whole different light. That's going to kickstart your journey to building your business or building your career on LinkedIn. I've got 2 spaces left. You know, I could have 2 more women get on this bus with me. If that sounds like you, if that sounds like something you're interested in being part of or find out more about, drop me a DM, drop me a message before the end of the session or right after the end of the session, whatever it is, and we can talk about how to get you on board. No, it's not a free challenge, but it is very, very low cost challenge. So don't worry about that side of things. Okay, so I'll tell you more about it again in just a second, but let's move on because my time is because my time is going. Let's move on to the second barrier. If you're just tuning in, we are talking about the 4 common barriers to being visible on LinkedIn today. I want you to react to show that you're watching, because that's the only way I know who's tuning in. Just react. Use any one of the reactions you want to show me that you are watching, and I would be super grateful if you can do that. So barrier number 1 we talked about is fear. Number 1 barrier. It's not necessarily, well, it is the number 1. I would put that number 1 in terms of what I hear the most. Now, another barrier to being visible on LinkedIn, common barrier, is barrier number 2, comparison. Now, I'm going to go quick on this one because this is all about, and this, you might relate to this, but this whole idea of there is a lot of people on LinkedIn, even though it's just, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn, 80% plus, who are not putting out content on LinkedIn, which means that there's about 20% of people on LinkedIn who are regularly producing and creating the content that you see on your feed. Now, I've created content every single week there on LinkedIn for 3 years, 3 whole years, nonstop, every single week there, and some weekends too. And I've still got stuff to say. Hello, somebody. So listen, I have my own unique style of LinkedIn. So does Bob and Sally and Joe and Tunde and Bookie and whoever else, right? Everybody has their own way of doing things. And everybody, this is the one thing I love about building a personal brand, is that there is only one you. Nobody can do you like you. But this barrier of comparison stops a lot of women from being visible on LinkedIn because it's this whole idea of, well, if I can't do it as well as her, then I'm just not going to bother. I can't write that well, or my selfies are not that good, or I don't come across that good on video, or I'm not that confident to go live like her. You know, and that barrier of comparison keeps a lot of women from being visible because you keep looking over your shoulder and across the room and up, down, and everywhere, except for looking internally to see what you can bring to the table that nobody else can bring. And that is the cure for this particular barrier of comparison. Know that you have your own people, you have your own audience, you have your own unique and authentic voice. And once you tap into that, you are going to find your people who are going to love what you have to share, what you have to offer, and you'll build your own tribe that will help you to increase your influence, your income, and your impact, and all of that good stuff that comes from being visible on LinkedIn. So I want you to quit comparing and know that nobody, absolutely nobody can do you like you. You know, so thank you, Christina. Christina says, I love the passion. And Claire says, comparison is a big one for me. It is a big one for a lot of people. Honestly, I will confess right here. I'm going to confess right here. I even now and again, I struggle with that because there are loads of people, there are loads of amazing content creators on LinkedIn who put stuff out there and they write. I'm a writer by nature, right? But I'm a creative writer type of thing. I train as a journalist and my background is writing, comms, PR, all of that kind of stuff. But I'm not a copywriter. That's a different skill altogether. Anyone who's in writing will tell you that's a completely different skill. You can be a good writer, but being a good copywriter is absolutely different skill. And there are so many good copywriters on LinkedIn. Sometimes I look at their posts, I'm like, oh my God, I wish my post was that great. So even I, with 50,000 plus followers or whatever, I still sometimes occasionally get that thought of comparison. But you know what I do? I remind myself that I am the only Mildred Talabi on LinkedIn, and nobody can do me like me. So compare yourself with yourself. Compare yourself with the previous version of yourself by all means, but not with anybody else, or else that's going to keep you from being visible on LinkedIn. My God, that's barrier number 2, and I got 4 minutes left. Okay, I'm not going to make this another episode. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the last 2 barriers real quickly. And by the way, if you have a barrier that's stopping you, if you're right now, you're not being visible on LinkedIn and there's a particular reason for it that you're happy to share with me, please drop it in the comments. I'd love to know. Or if it's any of the ones I've shared so far resonating and you're like, yep, that's me, that's what's stopping me, I'd love to know that too. So if this is resonating, let me know, because then that's the only way I'm gonna come back next time, right? Because I'm like, if it's useful, I'll come back. If it's not useful, I could sit at home and eat my lunch. Why am I here? All right, okay, let's go. Barrier number 3, Mildred. Barrier number 3, get on with it. Barrier number 3 that stops women, common barriers to be invisible on LinkedIn, is the barrier number 3 is perfectionism. Waiting until it's perfect. Wait, especially raise your hands virtually if you have ever written out a post and then edited that post and then edited that post again and then again. And then you never get around to pressing post. It doesn't make it to the public because you've decided it's not good enough. If that's you, drop a yes in the comments. Say, yep, that's me, perfectionism. Because I know this is an issue of a lot of women. I hear this all the time. That whole idea, because we're comparing and we're looking across the field at our neighbor and we're thinking they're doing it so brilliantly, I have to do it so just as brilliantly, or else there's no point. Perfectionism is a killer. When I work with my clients, my LinkedIn coaching clients, and on my group coaching programs, 8 weeks to visible, I tell them, here's one of the mantras I tell them. I say, ladies, I want you to know, I want you to recite this, I want you to memorize this, I want you to repeat this every day. Done is better than perfect. When it comes to building your brand on LinkedIn, creating content, putting content out, done is better than perfect. It is much better that you get into the rhythm of posting on LinkedIn regularly and building up that consistency than it is for you to be perfect on every post. Okay, so done is better than perfect. Aim for done, not perfect. Perfectionism is a massive killer. Okay, so all right, last one. And before I give you the last one, just a reminder that if you want to join my 30-day audience breakthrough challenge, where I'm going to walk you through the steps of building, finding, connecting with your target audience on LinkedIn, we're going to talk a bit about content creation as well in this challenge, as well as your profile and all the good stuff that helps you be visible on LinkedIn. This is a perfect opportunity to come and work with me in the small group setting at a very, 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 oh my God, it's so disgustingly low cost. Very, 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 very low cost. And for over 30 days, I'm going to walk you through this myself personally. And I love it. I love doing it. I actually love working with small groups of women and to transform them in these little mini cohorts, and then in my group program also, which the next intake of my group program is in April. So this is not the one. This is just a 30-day program to help you start your journey, accelerate your journey, take that next step in your journey to be invisible on LinkedIn. I wouldn't miss it if I were you. I've got space for 2 women. If you want to be one of those 2 women, drop me a direct message ASAP and let me know. Put the word challenge so I know that that's what you're responding to. Okay, so in this last minute, I'm going to give you my very last barrier of common barrier to be invisible on LinkedIn that I hear time and time again, and that is this. Barrier number 4 is a lack of knowledge. Now, if this resonates, drop a yes, that's me in the comments. Lack of knowledge. I don't know what to do, Mildred. I want to show up on LinkedIn. I want to post on LinkedIn. I want to engage on LinkedIn, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how best to do it. I don't know if the algorithm's working for me or against me. I just don't know. I don't know where my audience is. I don't know where to find them. I don't know how to connect with them. I do not know. Okay, good. Two things to fix that. Number one, if you haven't read my LinkedIn book, Start Being Visible, go and get yourself a copy of that. I've been told by almost 50 people on Amazon with their almost all 5-star reviews that it's a brilliant book to help you to navigate the journey to building your personal brand on LinkedIn. If you haven't read it, go. That would be the first step because it's a cheap, non-expensive, very, very non-expensive option to get the knowledge out of my head that I've used to build my profile, my personal brand in here over the last 3 years plus, 50,000 plus followers, regularly get clients on here. I have a good lifestyle coaching business based on LinkedIn, and I can teach you how to do all of this stuff. And I'm going to teach you that stuff in my challenge as well. So some of the stuff in my challenge. So drop me a message if you want to be part of the challenge. But lack of knowledge is the last barrier. So go and get yourself some knowledge. Get the knowledge is out there. Get yourself some knowledge and apply it. So start with my book, and then also just and I'm not doing that to promote my book, by the way, because it's like, it's how much is it? It's like 20 quid. No, it's like 15 quid on Amazon. I get probably like 10% of that. So trust me, it's not a money making thing. It's because it's a really good book, if I must say so myself, right? And it's a really easy way for you to understand what you need to do on LinkedIn to start being visible on this platform. That's why it's called Start Being Visible. That's my mantra. Start being visible. Start. When should you start? Today. So lack of knowledge, don't let that be a barrier. Get the knowledge that you need. Get the help that you need. Read the book. Pay the coach. Invest in the services. Watch free YouTube videos. I don't care. I've got so many free articles on my profile that you can read. And if you read them all without even buying my book, you'll be able to get a really good sense of what to do on LinkedIn. If you read my posts, I try to share things that will help you build your brand and start being visible on LinkedIn. And you don't have to pay a penny for that, but get the knowledge that you need. Don't let that be the hindrance, because 2023, let this be the year that you start your journey to being visible on LinkedIn, because what is going to happen is by the end of the year, because it takes time to build up the brand, the consistency and all of that. But if you start today, 1 year from now, I did a post about this, I don't know, a few weeks back. 1 year from now, you are going to be so happy that you made the decision to start being visible today, because it will pay off for you in ways that you never even expected, whether that's for your career or for your business. It is a very worthwhile thing to start being visible on LinkedIn, especially if you do it now before the platform gets way saturated like Instagram and Facebook and all the rest of them, right? So LinkedIn is not way saturated yet. They're still growing. LinkedIn is like it's not even pre-teen. It's probably like, I don't know. My analogy is always rubbish. But anyway, let me not go off on a tangent because my time is up. But so that's the last barrier, the lack of knowledge. Don't let that stop you from being visible on LinkedIn. Don't let any of these barriers that we spoke about today stop you from being being visible on LinkedIn, whether that's the barrier of fear, the barrier of comparison, the barrier of perfectionism, or this last barrier of lack of knowledge. I want you to make a commitment. And if you're going to make this commitment, I want you to type it in a comment, say, yes, Mildred, I am committed to, and use the hashtag start being visible. That's my hashtag, by the way. If you type in hashtag start being visible on LinkedIn as a search, you'll find all my content, most of my content. I don't always tag them with that, but you find most of my content and you can follow them. So if you are making this commitment to start being visible, and this little lunchtime session has inspired you or motivated you or whatever else it has done for you to help you in the process, drop it in the comments. Say, Mildred, I'm ready to start being visible. And if you need my help doing this and you want to join my ABC challenge, drop me a message and send me a DM. As I said, I can take on 2 more women on this bus before the bus sails. We start on Monday, so you don't have much time to procrastinate. So get on with it, okay? But all right, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here with me in this session, and I look forward to seeing you again. And if you're watching on replay, yes, hello, good to see you. I'm going to come in. I like to come and comment, and that's part of it, by the way. I love building relationships with my people on LinkedIn. So please leave a comment. Please use one of the reaction things to say that you've watched, and then I will see you again some other time. I don't know when. I'm not going to promise when, but you will see me again live on LinkedIn very soon. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day, whatever else you do, and I will see you soon. Bye.